If Joe Biden was hoping the June jobs report was going to offer him some reprieve from the constant onslaught of post-debate criticism, he is sadly mistaken. Just take a look at this chart. It shows that most of the people who left the labor force during the COVID lockdowns never came back, and they're not even counted among the unemployed. Just one more piece of evidence that the official unemployment rate is artificially low.
And so to make matters worse, the economy is losing full-time jobs at an alarming rate, down nearly 1.6 million within the last 12 months. And overall employment, well, it's virtually flat over the last year, with gains only coming from part-time jobs.
Here to break it all down, Heritage Foundation economist EJ Antoni. EJ, always terrific to see you. I'll end with what Sean just mentioned. It's the fact that we've hemorrhaged, that's your word, 1.6 million full-time jobs in the last year, and that's been replaced with part-time employment. That is another element of the struggle that Americans are facing under the Biden administration.
Dagen, that's absolutely right. And one of the problems with our non-farm payroll numbers right now is the fact that when someone gets laid off from a full-time job and then replaces that work with, for example, 2 or even 3 part-time jobs, those are all still counted as an additional payroll. And so a worker being worse off can actually increase these headline numbers. And that's one of the reasons why the month after month numbers continue to look pretty good, except respondents on economic polls continue to tell us that it's very, very tough out there.
So, EJ, what's driving this? What's the cause of, less full-time jobs, those pandemic workers who lost their jobs not coming back in, less full-time jobs? What's driving this? Is it government policy? Is this just part of a cycle coming out of a pandemic? What's going on here?
Well, Sean, it's a little bit of everything, but I don't want to downplay just how much bad public policy is really dragging down the labor market today. There are a lot of businesses that are facing a tremendous amount of headwinds, not the least of which is because of all of the regulations which the Biden administration has imposed on the free market. And when you burden the free market to the tune of thousands of dollars per American family per year, you're going to see some very serious side effects there, not the least of which is going to be that you're cutting into businesses' profit margins and that they're going to be able to employ fewer people. And let's not forget probably the biggest story of all, which is inflation. Everyone has less money, whether it's individuals or businesses.
I also want to point out that native-born Americans employed has fallen 900,000 in the last year. Foreign-born jumping 1.2 million. Foreign-born includes illegal aliens, does it not?
It does, Dagen. In fact, the Bureau of Labor Statistics is very clear on this point because they don't ask any questions, whether when they're asking households or when they're asking establishments. They never inquire as to the legal status of a member of a household or of a worker. And so it is very clear that we are counting illegals in these foreign-born labor statistics. And as you just pointed out, Dagen, all of the net job growth that we have seen, not just over the last year, but since the pandemic, has been foreign-born workers.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to this, EJ, because the number of jobs in manufacturing in that sector, it's also remained essentially flat since January of last year, increasing less than 0.1%. This stagnant growth is impacting real people. Earlier this week, we spoke with one former John Deere employee who chose to take early retirement after the company announced their plans to move jobs to Mexico.
The reason why farmers and others buy this, expensive equipment is because it's made by American union workers. When you take that out of the equation, what do you got left? And I don't think anyone is interested in seeing good American jobs being shipped to Mexico, especially these loyal farm families that are buying John Deere equipment for generation after generation, and even live in some of these small communities where that will be devastated by the loss of jobs.
EJ, this can't just be a story of the American wage, right, and the benefit package. This has to be a story of it costs too much money to do business in America. Taxes are too high. Regulation, they're too extensive. And so it makes sense to go, not because of wages, but because of regulation, go to places like Mexico and China and India.
Sean, this is a really sad story, but it ties together, I think, everything we're talking about and gives us a real good sense of the labor market as a whole right now in the United States. And here's the story. We have imposed tens of thousands of dollars of costs in regulation on manufacturers per worker. In other words, you can very easily double the cost to employ someone in manufacturing in the United States because of the regulatory burden. And as a consequence, it doesn't matter that the American worker has 3 to 4 times as much capital at his disposal as his foreign counterpart. He still can't compete because of the regulatory and tax burden that you just mentioned. And that's a surefire way to kill good-paying, full-time, blue-collar jobs and to drive people into part-time gig work.
And this allows me to remind everybody that Joe Biden's chief economic advisor has a PhD in social work and a master's social work, not economics, because as Americans continue to be crushed under inflation that Biden caused, Biden and team have a new plan to combat high grocery prices, price controls, and more free food paid for by your tax dollars. A $2,000 hike in food stamp spending. EJ, again, this is like upside down and ass backwards.
I tell you what, Dagen, this is hoping to smother a fire with gasoline. I mean, the only reason we are in this mess is because government spent trillions of dollars it didn't have, and the Fed literally printed the money for the Treasury to spend. That's what gave us 40-year high inflation. And their answer is to simply do more of the same. We're going to spend more money we don't have, which means borrowing more money we don't have, which ultimately means we're going to have to print it because there's just not enough to go around. The Treasury is sucking all of the oxygen out of the room. That's why your interest rates are so high on everything from credit cards to mortgages. It's because they're doing so much borrowing, there's not enough to go around for the private sector.
Focus on the symptom, not the root cause. Nice job, Joe Biden. EJ Antoni, always great to see you. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.